Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Master Nader's Garage. Today we're going to be replacing the rotor and the brake pads. This pretty much will work on any vehicle. This is a 05 Corolla, but I'm going to go step by step with you and let you know how to do this, just in case you've never done it before. First thing obviously you got to do is take the wheel off, which I already did, and yeah, so we'll get right into it. Now, basically what you're going to want to do first is you got 4 nuts back here. 2 that hold on the whole mounting bracket, which is one right here, and then you got 2 others that hold on the pads, which is right here. So what you want to do is take these ones off first, so you can move this, well, for layman's terms we'll call it the pad holder. We'll get that out of there. So I'm going to take those off and I'll show you that. We'll get that out of there, and then we're going to take off the other 2 bolts, which there's one on the top right there, and there's one directly beneath it. And that'll take off the whole bracket assembly so you can get this rotor out of here. So I'm going to take off the top one, and I'll get you right back as soon as I'm done. Alright, now that we got those bolts free, this whole bracket comes off. See? Your pads, there's one here and there's one on the other side. They should stay mounted right there until you're ready for it. So you just got to get this up out of the way. Don't let it hang there, because this brake line, they have a tendency to pull out and leak afterwards. So don't let it just hang there. What you can do is you can tie up a piece of wire or something through that little bolt hole right there, and just, you know, tie it up somewhere where it ain't gonna hang on the brake line. And once that's out of the way, I'm going to take off that bolt there, and there's another one down there, and then this whole bracket assembly will come off. You replace the pads and slide the rotor off, and I'll bring you back as soon as I get that off and this all tied up. Alright, I'll see you in a minute. Alright guys, like I said, once you get those 2 bolts off, in this case they were 17 millimeter, and the pad bracket was 14 millimeter. But once you get those 2 off, it's pretty simple. You just take the bracket off, and that's it. And then you got to pop these pads out, which I'll go over that in a minute. And the rotor just slides right off. That's no big deal at all. So you slide that, you know, slide this off, put your new one on, no big deal. And then we'll get going on the pads, and I'll show you a quick and easy way to do that. And then you got to compress the caliper, but I got a trick for that. So you don't need an expensive tool, you don't need nothing. All you need is a piece of wood and a C-clamp, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in a minute. Alright guys, here's the new rotor on there. Now, one thing you're going to want to do, that you don't want to forget to do, they've got a product called Brake Clean. I mean, I'm going to use carburetor cleaner because it basically, it's what I have. But it's going to do the same purpose. What you want to do, alcohol will work too, is the new rotor's got like an oil coating on it. You want to spray that off. Otherwise, well, it's slippery. You ain't going to be able to stop, or at least not that well, until the oil burns off. So what you want to do, just spray it down to get the oil off. All you got to do, literally, spray it down this side and the other side. Let that dry, because while that's drying, it doesn't take very long. You can work on the pads, which we're going to be putting in that. And yeah, that's it. I just got to flip it around, spray the other side, but don't forget that step. It's very important. Alright, so I'll see you in a minute. Alright guys, I got that all sprayed down. Now what I'm going to want to do, see these pads, they kind of ride in these little rails right here. So all you got to do to get them out is literally push on them, and they move. That's the whole purpose behind the caliper. The caliper's got a piston in it, and it squeezes these together, and that's what makes you stop. So all you got to do is you push them out to the center, and the pads will slide right out, and then you just put the new ones in. So literally all you got to do is push on it. But I can't do it one-handed, and I'm not a big YouTuber, so I don't have all the fancy tripod equipment, so I try and squeeze it by hand here for a second with one meat paw. See, there you go. See, that just popped that way. Then you got to pop the other one, and then they just pull right out through the middle. And you put the new ones in the exact same way these ones came out. Start in the middle and push back. And I'll bring it back as soon as I get the new ones in. Okay guys, like I said, they just slide in the same way the old ones slid out. That's it. Now we can put this aside. You want to kind of leave it towards one end of the little slide. See, you don't want it all the way in, because this is going to have to slide on over your rotor. And if this space is too thin, well, you're not going to get it over the rotor. So, but now we're going to work on, I'm going to show you how to compress that piston inside this caliper so it'll fit over these. Now, it'll all make sense in a minute. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take off the brake fluid container cap. You know, don't take it off completely, because it's, well, basically brake fluid is hydrostatic, so it absorbs moisture from the air. If you leave the cap off, it gets too much water in the line and it just causes hell with your brakes, so don't do that. But what you want to do is you want to loosen it. You take the cap off and just place it back on top of the reservoir, and that's up here. That's what this is right here. See, I got it loose, and the reason for that is when you compress the piston and the caliper, the fluid that's in the line is going to go back up the lines and back up into the reservoir, so it's going to fill back up. I mean, if you take the cap off and squeeze it too fast, one, you can damage the piston, and two, you're going to get like an old geyser effect with that reservoir. So just loosen the cap, and as soon as I get this all set up with my C-clamp, the C-clamp, and a piece of wood, I'm going to show you how to compress that. Real simple. Anybody could do it. Alright? Hold on a second. Alright guys, we get this bolted back on with the 2 bolts. Now what we got to do is compress this piston. Now you don't want to do this too fast. If you cockeye the piston at all, you'll ruin it. You got to get a new caliper. But what you want to do, just get a little piece of wood. That's all you do. A little piece of wood right in front of it, right in front of the piston. And then you're going to want to take a C-clamp, which is this monstrosity. You know, put it on one side here, onto the nut in the back, and slowly compress it so that piston is flush. That way you know that this caliper will fit over those pads. Alright, I'll show you in a minute. Alright guys, see what I mean? Clamp on one side on that nut. Don't do it somewhere else, because you'll screw up the caliper. And then you just compress it until the wood is flush, and then you know the piston is all the way seated inside the caliper. That's it. But you got to be careful. If you skew that caliper and you score it up, it's going to be no good. You're going to have to buy a new one. So this part, you know, do at your own risk. But it's pretty simple. I don't want to scare you off from doing it, so you can do it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the C-clamp off and put the caliper back on, and that's it. Then all you got to do is pump up the brakes, and she's all done. A lot of people like to bleed the brakes, but we didn't do anything with the brake line, so there's no air in the system. So you don't need to bleed them. You can if you want to, but that's something different. That involves, there's a nipple on the caliper, and you know, get somebody in there and push the brakes and squeeze it until the air in the lines come out. But we didn't get any air in the lines, so yeah, that's it. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to mount it back up with the other 2 bolts, and we'll show you the finished product. All right, bye. Alright guys, that's it. Got the caliper mounted back up. 2 bolts there, one on the top for the signal focus, one on the bottom. You know, make sure you got the 1 bolt here for the big bracket and the one down there on the bottom. And that's it. And then it's just, I gotta do the other side, but when you're done, sit in the car, pump up the brakes until you get some, you know, your resistance back. You'll be able to tell. And that's it, you're good to go. But all this stuff, I'm going to spray it one more time with the carb cleaner to get the oil off of the rotor. But that's it. That's your basic disc brake, you know, replacement. And in about a week or so, I'm going to be doing the back brakes. So that's different. That's instead of having the nice rotor or 2 pads, it's a drum and springs, and it's a little bit more involved, so I'll get into that one next time. But you know, thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Hit the little bell, and yeah, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching Master Nader's Garage.